Hi, my name is Andrea Barrientos. I'm 22 years old. I'm the youngest of 7 children from my mom's side and the second oldest from 4 children of my dad's side. My most vivid memory was when I was 5, 6 years old. All I remember was my mom and my dad fighting on top of the bed while my older brother was crying in front of me, yelling them to stop. I didn't understand why because I thought that they loved each other. They were husband and wife for 17 years. Until my second memory was when I was around 6, 7. I went to El Pollo Loco with my dad, just waiting there, when a woman came in with a baby carrier. I was like, okay, what are we doing here? I told my mom later that day, and they got a divorce, and I found out later on that that was my baby brother that my dad had with another woman. I wasn't upset that I got a second family. I was grateful, honestly, but I didn't think it was gonna affect me that much until later on in life. Senior year of high school, I lost motivation. Mentally, physically, I just couldn't do anything. All I wanted to do was sleep, and I did that. I went to a classroom and I just slept there. I was scared for my future, scared for life, scared for my parents. What if they thought less of me because I wasn't putting enough effort in my classes? But I just couldn't move anything. I just was so tired. I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to tell someone, I had to. And I told my mom first, and she was weirded out in the beginning. She was like, okay, well, everyone goes through that, you know? I went through it, you could go through it, just deal with it. And I did, until I couldn't anymore. And I decided to talk to my counselor. And they recommended therapy. I told my dad, he helped me, and I told my mom, and she really thought therapy was for crazy people until I had to take it. And she was like, you know what? Maybe it's gonna help you. Maybe it's gonna help everyone. And I went through it. I felt better. I did sports. I went to track and field. I started taking photography because it helped me. It went well. Then I got to college. And then in 2021, my father passed away. He was all the way in Mexico and I was here. I just didn't know what was going on. I was lost. The first day that we found out, we straight up went over there and went to see him. I didn't even say goodbye. I didn't say goodbye. Now I am learning to go through life. I'm learning to take it one step at a time, and that's what I'm doing. I recently went on a trip, came back. I'm enjoying life with my mom. I'm taking it one step at a time. I'm going to college again. Everything's gonna go okay. Just take it one step at a time. Don't stress about the future, because that's the future. You're in the present right now. Enjoy it right now. Don't be scared to talk to someone. It's really important. I know you're scared. I know it's scary. I felt through it. I went through it. But if you talk to someone, you're gonna get the help that you need.
My name is Anaí Jimenez. I'm 22 years old and I was born and raised in Los Angeles, more specifically Boyle Heights and East LA. When we first moved from Boyle Heights to East LA, I was still in elementary school. I was in 4th grade and I didn't want to end my elementary school years there. I didn't want to go into another school, make new friends. So I told my mom that I wanted to end until 6th grade. And so she would drive me from East LA to Boyle Heights. My dad would get home first and then go pick me up. And so my dad would pick me up sometimes intoxicated, sometimes inebriated. And I didn't realize it at the time, I would just kind of go with him. But there was a specific part on the freeway on our way home that was like a really big curve. And I would get so much anxiety because I thought this is where my life ends. This is where we crash and I die, which is really sad to think about now that I'm older and I was 9 years old thinking about death. From there, I had severe anxiety. I had heart palpitations. I ended up going to Kaiser for it, and the doctor told me to monitor it. It would happen at night sometimes. I would get fits of anxiety, and my mom was worried about it. She would tell me that I needed to go on like walks, go to the park, go cycling, and I would, but that wasn't enough. And so we went back to the doctor, and the doctor told me that if it persisted, I would have to wear a heart monitor because it was getting really bad. I do still get heart palpitations, and I've had anxiety attacks and panic attacks. I never talked about it. I didn't want anyone to find out. My mom asked me, well, just stay there. I'll pick you up when I get out of work. Don't leave with him. And I told her, but if I don't leave with him, they're gonna ask questions. Like, why don't you want to go with your dad? And it was very present to me that my dad is an illegal immigrant. So if anything was said, you know, the school had an obligation to tell the authorities, and I was like, that I'm not gonna be the reason my dad gets kicked out of the country. So I just stuck it out. I never told anyone about it. I told my mom that. She just kind of was like, all right, well, I guess we're just gonna keep doing it the way we have been. My junior year was where it kind of all just snowballed. The setbacks just really hit me hard. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. This same thing every day, you know, getting home, seeing my dad drunk, and then there would be some kind of verbal abuse. My self-esteem was on the floor. I felt worthless. I didn't see myself bringing anything into this world, and I was like, why should I continue being here? It wasn't until one day in my AP English class, Mr. Murchie pulled me aside and was like, hey, can I talk to you? And I was like, okay. He told me, you know, you're a straight A student. You haven't been turning in your assignments. You know, like, what's going on? And I felt seen in that moment. I was like, no one bothered to ask me before if something was wrong with me, what was going on. And I told him that I was just really tired, that I didn't have a will to live anymore, that I didn't want to be here anymore. And I broke down. I started bawling in front of Mr. Murchie. And he sat there and he waited for me to let everything out. He was like, I think you should talk to someone. And even in that moment, I was like, no, because I don't want my parents to find out. But he was like, no, I think you need to talk to someone. So he sent me to the school psychologist, and she talked to me and asked me questions, and I told her, well, this is going on at home, and you know, this is how I feel, and I'm tired, I don't want to talk about it. She kept egging me on. She asked me a lot of questions. And then she was like, I think we need to call your parents. And I was like, no. I was so scared. My dad was working, so there was no way they could reach him. And so she called my mom. And my mom shows up to the school, and I remember it like it was yesterday. She had a dentist appointment that day, so like half her face was swollen from like something that they did to her tooth. And she looked at me, and I was crying. She looked at me and she was confused. They put her in the office first with the school counselor, and then they put me inside with them. And so they asked her, like, do you know that your daughter has problems with her dad and his alcoholism? And she was like, yeah, but I just tell her to ignore it, you know? I just tell her to don't listen to him, just ignore him. And I looked at the school psychologist like, you see, you know? So I feel that I've lost my dad a long time ago. And for a long time, I thought that it was my fault. So to someone who's dealing with that, it's not your fault. And you should never feel that way. And even though they're your parent and you want what's best for them, sometimes you have to put yourself first and walk away from the situation as much as you can. Take care of yourself, because it's a sad realization that he's not going to change. So I have to change. I have to better myself. And getting to that notion that it isn't my fault that he's that way with me, in our family, was very hard, and it took a lot of years of therapy to get to that point. And I kept receiving services in high school, even though they were very limited because we only had one school psychologist for like the whole school. And so with her help and the help of Mr. Murchie and the help of Mr. Garcia, who was my AP Youth History teacher at the time, he took a lot of interest in my mental health, and I'm very grateful for that. I would say Mr. Murchie in some way saved my life because I don't know where I would be if I never got help. And he was the door to that, thankfully. And Mr. Garcia was just a pillar in my life at that moment because he just, he was so passionate about what he was teaching, and he's passionate about his students, and he made me feel that way. He made me feel that I was important and that I needed to be here.